You're driving home after a long day. The radio is low, your mind is on dinner, on sleep, on tomorrow. In your rearview mirror, the sudden, dizzying flash of red and blue lights shatters the calm. Your heart jumps into your throat. You signal, pull over smoothly, and fumble for your license and registration, running through a mental checklist. Was I speeding? Tail light out? The officer approaches, asks the usual questions, then returns to their cruiser. You wait, breathing slowly, thinking the worst is over. Then they come back, but they don't hand you a ticket. Instead, they fix you with a steady gaze and say the words that change everything. You don't mind if I take a look in your trunk, do you? This is the precipice of the trunk pop. It's not a formal term in law books, but in the real world of traffic stops and police encounters, it is one of the most powerful, misunderstood, and consequential moments you can face. It's a trick, a test, and a legal trapdoor all in one. Your next move, the few words you choose to say in that high-pressure moment, can determine whether you drive home that night or face charges that alter your life's trajectory. This article is your shield and your map. We will dissect the anatomy of this police tactic, illuminate the bedrock constitutional rights that protect you, and provide you with the clear, actionable knowledge you need to navigate this encounter with confidence and safety. The law is not an abstraction here. It is the ground you stand on. Let's learn how to stand firm. The anatomy of a traffic stop, from stop to pop. To understand the trunk pop, you must first understand the landscape of a traffic stop. The Supreme Court has repeatedly held that a traffic stop is a seizure under the Fourth Amendment. This is a critical point. Your liberty has been restrained. However, this seizure is reasonable and thus constitutional, so long as it is justified at its inception and limited in scope and duration to the mission of the stop. That mission is narrow. For a simple speeding ticket, the mission is to 1. Check the driver's identification and credentials. 2. Run a warrants check. 3. Issue a ticket or warning. And 4. Allow the driver to go on their way. The officer may also take steps to ensure their own safety, such as asking the driver and passengers to step out of the vehicle. This is all within the established scope. The trunk pop is an attempt to vastly expand that scope. It is an investigative detour, a fishing expedition. The officer, having completed or nearly completed the traffic mission, now seeks to convert the stop into a general search for contraband, drugs, weapons, cash, without the legal justification typically required. They do this by attempting to obtain what the law calls consent. 2. The Fourth Amendment. Your shield against unreasonable searches. The foundation of your protection is the Fourth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue, but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. For a search to be reasonable, it generally requires one of three things: a warrant issued by a neutral judge, probable cause to believe evidence of a crime will be found, your voluntary consent. During a routine traffic stop, the officer lacks a warrant for your trunk. They also, in the vast majority of these pop scenarios, lack probable cause. Smelling nothing suspicious, seeing no visible contraband, and having no specific, articulable facts to suggest criminal activity, they are left with one tool: your permission. The trunk pop question is designed to elicit that permission, to make you hand over your shield. 3. The psychology of the trick, why it works. The question is never bluntly, "I demand to search your trunk." It is almost always couched in polite, casual, even friendly language. "You don't mind if I take a quick look, do you? I'm just going to have a peek in the trunk for my report, okay? While we're here, do you have any objections to me checking the car? To be safe and get you on your way, I'll just do a quick trunk check." This is tactical. It exploits powerful psychological pressures. Authority and compliance. People are conditioned to comply with authority figures, especially uniformed police officers. Perceived obligation. The officer has just done you a favor by perhaps giving a warning instead of a ticket, creating a subconscious sense of debt. Desire to appear innocent. There's a terrifying, illogical fear that saying no makes you look guilty, even if you have nothing to hide. You want to prove your innocence by cooperating. Social politeness. The phrasing makes no seem rude, confrontational, and uncooperative. It pathologizes the exercise of a constitutional right. Intimidation and fatigue. The stop is stressful. You're tired, anxious, and want it to end. Saying yes feels like the fastest route to freedom. Here is the crucial, counterintuitive legal truth. Invoking your rights is not an admission of guilt, and consenting to a search does not prove your innocence. In a court of law, the fact that you refused a search is not admissible as evidence of guilt. Your consent, however, makes anything found fully admissible. 4. The law of consent. Voluntary versus coerced. For consent to be legally valid, it must be voluntary. It cannot be the product of duress, coercion, or deception. Courts look at the totality of the circumstances, the setting, the officer's tone, whether you were in custody, whether you were told you have the right to refuse. The problem? The very nature of a traffic stop is inherently coercive. You are not free to leave. The power dynamic is immense. Because of this, courts often give great deference to law enforcement's version of events. An officer will testify, "I asked in a normal tone, and the defendant said, 'Sure, go ahead.' Without a recording, it becomes a swearing contest you are likely to lose. Therefore, your safest, most legally sound position is to not rely on a judge later deciding your consent was coerced. Your safest position is to not give consent at all. You must clearly and unambiguously invoke your right. How to respond. The script of assertiveness. Your response must be a denial of consent, but it need not be rude, combative, or suspicious. It should be calm, clear, and unequivocal. You are not arguing with the officer. You are stating a legal position. The golden response: "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." That is it. That is the complete sentence. It is polite, firm, and legally perfect. You can add a preface to soften the delivery if you wish. "I respect what you're doing, but I do not consent to any searches." What happens next? One of three things. The officer respects your rights. They may reiterate the request, but if you hold firm, they must let you go, unless they develop probable cause in the meantime. This is the most common outcome when you clearly invoke your rights. They attempt to pressure you. They may say, "Why not? If you have nothing to hide, you shouldn't mind." Do not engage in debate. Do not explain, justify, or argue. Simply repeat calmly, "I choose not to consent to any searches," or "My lawyer has advised me never to consent to a search." This reframes it not as personal defiance, but as a principled, premeditated choice. They bring in the dogs. This is a critical development. The Supreme Court has held that police may not unreasonably prolong a traffic stop to wait for a drug-sniffing dog. The stop's duration must still be tied to its original mission. However, if a drug dog is already on scene or arrives before the stop's ordinary business is concluded, a sniff of the car's exterior is not considered a search. If the dog alerts at the trunk, that may provide the probable cause needed to search without your consent. This is legal. Your refusal of consent cannot be used to justify prolonging the stop to await a dog, but the line here is fine and often litigated. Here is the moment of suspense that could change everything. Imagine you've clearly said, "I do not consent." The officer pauses, his hand on his radio, and says, "A K9 unit is just a few minutes away. You're telling me you're willing to sit here and wait for the dog instead of just showing me the trunk now and being on your way." What would you do? Would you hold the line knowing your rights, or would the pressure break you? Tell me in the comments below. Your answer might prepare someone else for this very moment. 6. The consequences of consent versus refusal. Let's be brutally realistic about the outcomes. If you consent, the search is now legal. Anything found, a forgotten joint in a jacket pocket from months ago, a friend's backpack left in the trunk, legally prescribed medication not in its bottle, a legally owned firearm improperly stored during travel, can be used as evidence against you. You have waived your Fourth Amendment protections. It becomes nearly impossible to challenge the search later in court. You may face arrest, charges, legal fees, loss of employment, and a criminal record. If you refuse, the officer, absent probable cause, must let you go, assuming the traffic stop is otherwise resolved. You may feel nervous. The interaction may feel tense for another minute. You retain the ability to challenge any subsequent search if the officer proceeds without consent or probable cause. You drive home free. The choice is stark. One path offers a momentary relief from social tension at the risk of catastrophic life consequences. The other requires a brief, courageous assertion of your rights to ensure your long-term safety and liberty. 7th, beyond the trunk. Other common tricks and your responses. The trunk pop is just one variant. Be prepared for these related tactics. The step out and pat down. An officer can always ask you to step out of the car for safety. You must comply. They may then ask, "Do you mind if I pat you down for weapons?" Your response, "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." They may still frisk you if they have reasonable suspicion you are armed and dangerous, a lower standard than probable cause, but your clear statement preserves your rights. The "Can I look in the car?" The same principle applies. The interior of your car is just as protected as the trunk. I do not consent to any searches. The "What's in the bag?" If you have a bag, purse, or backpack in the passenger area, your answer is the same. Questions designed to create probable cause. Where are you coming from? Where are you headed? Have you smoked any marijuana today? These are not casual conversation. They are investigative questions. You have a Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. You are required to provide your license, registration, and proof of insurance. You are not required to answer other questions. A polite response. "Officer, I prefer not to answer any questions. Am I free to go?" F. White. The vital importance of documentation and legal recourse. If you believe your rights were violated, if an officer searched your trunk after you refused consent and without probable cause, the time to fight is after the stop, not during it. Do not physically resist. Memorize details. Officer's name, badge number, patrol car number, time, location. Find witnesses, passengers, bystanders. Seek legal counsel immediately. Do not speak to investigators without a lawyer. A motion to suppress evidence can be filed, arguing the search violated the Fourth Amendment. If successful, all evidence found is thrown out, often leading to dismissed charges. Conclusion: knowledge as power. The trunk pop trick preys on uncertainty, fear, and a lack of knowledge. It turns a constitutional right into a social faux pas. By understanding the law, you reclaim that power. You transform that moment of high-pressure uncertainty into one of calm, informed decision-making. Your car is in effect protected by the Fourth Amendment. Your no is not rude. It is the embodiment of a right fought for over centuries. Carry this knowledge with you every time you drive. Hope you never need it, but be profoundly grateful you have it if those lights flash in your mirror. If you found this deep dive into your rights valuable, imagine having this kind of clear, lawyer-driven analysis for every confusing legal situation in your life. We break down the tricks, explain the laws, and give you the scripts you need to protect yourself and your family. Don't leave your rights to chance. Subscribe to the channel now, hit that button and turn on notifications so you're always prepared, always informed, and always empowered.